friends. Welcome to another edition of Walking with J.Beau on a beautiful August day. So today we're walking a route that gets walked quite frequently, but it's a nice, peaceful back roads, especially on a day like today. It's not too hot, not too cold. Had a couple of breaking news stories today, which are pretty big, I guess. One is a shooting at Fort Stewart, which is starting to look like, at first when you saw the story, 5 soldiers shot by a soldier that went wacky. Which is true, but to be more precise and more detailed, it was an administrative area, and these people, a guy that did the shooting, more than likely, we don't know yet, but probably never would have seen combat and wasn't assigned a weapon. So, pretty obvious from the press conference that I saw a piece of that he shouldn't have had a firearm. So they want to see how he got that in there. And checking everybody for firearms is not something they spend a lot of time doing. I don't think it would have prevented anything. They have MPs on the base, and they put an end to this pretty quickly. And the guy did have a handgun. It was a handgun that he had on him, and the shooting started where he was working. So 2 + 2 usually makes 4. We don't have all the details yet, but it's looking like a workplace toxic environment, possible. Or this guy decided he was going to do that while he was at work and just started there. But chances are we'll find out there was some issue in the workplace, and this guy had been arrested for what Fox News called DWI. Here in Maine it's DUI, driving under the influence. Other places it's driving while intoxicated. Regardless, the local police had arrested him for that, and the Army in the press conference says they didn't know about it. They didn't know about that until after the shooting, and they started looking at that person's record. And the military does not have time to go do all of this research on every single person in the Army. There's so many people in the Army that you could do a check on them one day, and then next week they get arrested for something. Yeah, I mean, you'd have to check like every day, right? Can't do that. So you know, the goody-goodies on CNN want to make it sound like, oh, this is a breakdown in security, this is that, blah, blah, blah. Everything has gone to crap since Pete Hegseth has been in the Pentagon. That's basically what they sum it up as. And it's so blatantly obvious So anyway, as you can see, it's a beautiful day today. Fantastic. I want to add that the 5 soldiers that were shot at Fort Stewart are in stable condition. A couple of them have had surgery. It's like everybody should be okay for the most part, besides, you know, the obvious, like being shot. But they also got the shooter alive, so nobody was killed, and that is very welcome. Absolutely. So anyway, beautiful day, as I was saying, and this is the weather we're going to have for another 10 days. I looked at the extended forecast, and there's no rain, no thunderstorms, no fronts. This big giant high pressure thing over us is keeping the ungodly humidity down south. And even you people down south have had less humidity from what I've seen. Plus my brother's working in Virginia, and you know, he said it's, you know, 20 degrees cooler than it was. It's like 78 degrees, 80 degrees during the day. It's been getting down to 60 degrees at night. It's just chilly. According to him. So we're just gonna walk and get the workout in. I didn't walk yesterday, and I didn't walk yesterday because I mowed the property yesterday at my time I usually walk, and I didn't want to do a night walk last night, so I didn't. So everybody's revving their vroom vrooms. So I hope you enjoyed the past couple of walks, especially the one Harpswell by the ocean. This is back to a regular routine here. And like I said before, and I don't mean this offensive, you know, this might get boring doing the same routes all the time, but it's not about going places and doing things, it's about exercise. So I'm going to turn the camera around now. Hi y'all. Hi. So the other thing I wanted to talk about, and I told you this was going to happen with Epstein and Trump. I told you guys I'd be able to say I told you so. Turns out from the DOJ's deposition of Epstein Maxwell, She was asked very plainly if Trump ever did anything improper, illegal, at any Epstein residence. And she said, "No, I have never seen him do anything like that in my presence," she said. She was with Epstein all the time. Everything he did something, she was there. And she partook in a lot of it. And when she was younger, she was a looker. So, saw a picture of her when she was younger in a bikini, and she looked good. Now, I've noticed a lot of Democrats have cooled their heels about Trump and Epstein since then, because they know it's true. They know it's true. And it's really looking like the reason I said, okay, and I said it, I'll take some credit on this walks, that Trump was protecting people because he was being nice, and he has heart, and he doesn't want people implicated in bad things that did nothing wrong just simply by having their name associated with Epstein, like the media is trying to do to Trump, in other words. That's turning out to be exactly how it's unfolding. It's also looking like there's no Epstein client list. Kash Patel said there wasn't. And I don't know why people foolishly expected there to actually be a hard list, you know? I'd like to see people who did things wrong get punished. And we may see announcements for that. And I think the DOJ would rather charge people that they can charge than release all of these files, which there are files, but you know, you got to protect the victims. So, I mean, you have to, you know. They've been traumatized as a teen. They're now in their 30s. It's like, if you have a trial, these people are going to have to testify again, you know? And I think a lot of people aren't thinking of the victims in this. They want Epstein, they're obsessed with it, they're following this conspiracy theory, tinfoil hat stuff about lists and thousands of videos. Epstein had cameras. Epstein had cameras all over the place. And something got filmed. So, absolutely. What happened to those? I don't know. Have no idea what happened to those. Somebody behind me cut a branch off a tree and cut it off while I was talking, so you didn't see it fall in the road. I did, though. Sorry about that. So, my friends, this is turning out to be exactly what common sense should have told people it was. And unfortunately, common sense sometimes does not coincide with the internet. And you heard me complain about Charlie Kirk's Turning Point USA event back in June. Last year's was awesome. And this year, everybody that went up on stage talked about Epstein and how the elites are covering up and criticizing Trump. And in my book, that made these guys assholes to me, and I'm not going to go back to them because they're grifters. They're influencers trying to get ad revenue, clicks, advertising their podcast. Well, as far as I'm concerned, we wait for these cars to go by. The 20% of MAGA tinfoil hat conspirators that gave the Democrats all of this new fuel with Epstein can go fuck themselves. Period. And I don't say that lightly. Talking about Steve Bannon. You know, a lot of these guys, they went off on the bombing in Iran. They went off on the H-1B visas. They went off on Russia, Ukraine, and they went off on Epstein. It's looking an awful lot to me like these guys are going to now, because we won the election, they're going to criticize and politicize everything Trump does. It's looking like it's for revenue and ad clicks because nothing else makes sense. We know Trump campaigned on no new wars. So instead of waiting to see what happens with Iran, and because Trump didn't come out ahead of time and say, don't get upset with me, I'm going to be policing Iran, like I said at every rally I would do. So obviously these people are politicizing everything. I don't want to arm Ukraine either, okay? But it's obvious Putin's not going to quit. He can taste a victory because he's close to it. And prolonging this by sending more missiles is a horrible idea. Plus, it costs us money, taxpayers. So, I understand the angst about that one. I'm on the fence about it. I hate Zelensky. I think he's a little thug, an authoritarian that should have resigned. He canceled elections under martial law in Ukraine. He started conscripting people against their will, forced them into the military. Well, a lot of them have been killed because they weren't fit mentally or physically enough to be in the military. And so I understand that. Now Zelensky has signed into law, using his emergency powers vested to him by the parliament in Ukraine that is very much with him, that they have expanded the age to join the military in Ukraine to over 60 years old. So if you want to know how Ukraine is doing in this war, Russia is not sending people over 60 years old. Talking about people my age, 57, 58, 59, 60 and up, are now being accepted to fight. And people younger than that, they're still conscripting. And what conscription means is somebody knocks on your door and they tell you to get in a van, you're in the army now. Which is what the British Navy used to do pre-Revolutionary War to people in the colonies here and in Britain as well. The Crown has called on you to serve in the Navy. Kiss your wife goodbye. You got 15 minutes. We'll be waiting for you outside. And, oh, by the way, you'll be gone for 5 years at sea, where anything could happen and you may never come back again. So, Ukraine is doing that now. They're basically, there's videos online. Trump Jr. has posted some videos where they are security cameras recorded Ukraine recruiters wearing masks chasing people around in the neighborhood, because a lot of Ukrainians know that's going on. And they see those vans and they're taking off because they know how the war is going. At this point, everybody in Ukraine knows more than one person that's been killed by Russians, so it's not something that's very popular. I've seen videos with this guy with Down syndrome. He's obviously mentally not capable to be in combat, but he was conscripted. And that's not a rumor, it's not false. The video speaks for itself. It was online, everybody saw it, it's authentic. And you know, you get this poor guy with that Down syndrome looking face, you know? Very simple soul. Doesn't understand the danger he's in, he's smiling. And they tell him to load mortars into the mortar, and he dropped one and everybody's yelling at him, calling him an effing this and effing that, and the guy shouldn't be there. He shouldn't be there. But they have to use him because that's all they have. And remember all the bravado from Americans here when this war started? Oh, I'd love to go there and fight, and some of the people with military experience joined up as mercenaries to go fight in Ukraine. And they haven't come back. And some of them left Ukraine. They had to leave on their own against their will. Because Ukraine, once you go there to fight for them, they pretty much own you, even if you don't belong to that country. So if you leave, you're a deserter, punishable by death. So some of these brave bravado mercs thought Zelensky and Ukraine were this nice democratic country because Kamala Harris and Joe Biden and his administration said they were wonderful. Gonna go fight for democracy. Ukraine's not a democratic country. They're not. So get that out of your head. So there's a lot of stuff like that going on, and you know, we need to remember the second assassination attempt on Trump. Second assassination attempt on him on the golf course. We have to be so thankful that the barrel of that SKS rifle, that guy stuck it through the fence. And I know why he stuck it through the fence. He stuck it through the fence to have a rest, so he could be, I don't mean take a break, like have a rest, like I'm tired, I need a rest. I mean to use the diamond in the fence, chain link fence, as a gun rest. The barrel will sit right in the bottom of the diamond and keep your barrel steady. And if that rifle is sighted, you could kill somebody with a .22 LR. Well-placed shot right in the eye socket, in the brain, with good defense hollow point. So 22 WMR would do it. 22 WMR has the same velocity in feet per second out of a rifle barrel as a 9mm handgun, 9mm parabellum round. They got just about the same coefficient. The 22 WMR is no joke through a rifle barrel. That would also do the job. So basically that's what happened with that. And the reason why I mentioned that guy that tried to assassinate Trump for a second time, second assassination attempt, his first attempt. That guy went all the way from Hawaii to Florida just to shoot Trump. Now, Trump said he has been informed by Kash Patel and everybody else that there's no big story there. Guy acted alone, he wasn't working with other people. That just goes to show you how easy it can be to rile some of these people up with the rhetoric Democrats use. So anyway, the reason why I brought this guy up is in the past, he had worked with an organization to recruit soldiers to go to Ukraine and fight. That's why I mentioned that. This guy was all pro-Ukraine and hated Trump. So 2 + 2 plus all the rhetoric that politicians were using, and they're still using now. They're still using it today. We heard the dictator word this week twice. One from Rachel Maddow on TV, and one from Crockett, the idiot in the Congress from Texas, who thinks that she's making a name for herself, and she's doing it for the wrong reasons. She's spewing all the toxic stuff that has hurt the Democrats up to this point. So anyway, that guy was trying to recruit people with military experience or without to go join and fight. They'd pay for your plane there, this organization. And I'm sure he was paid for doing that. So, no big story there, but the point is the reason why I'm talking about Ukraine now is breaking news today. Breaking news, breaking news, breaking news. Trump said his envoy that he sent to Moscow to talk with Putin have come to some kind of agreement. Details are still fuzzy, so there's no guarantee this is even going to happen, but in short order, like not too long from now, maybe a week, maybe two, President Trump and Vladimir Putin are going to sit down and have a conversation. Trump said You know, I want to make it clear that I'm not going to go meet and talk with Putin just to have more delays, and you know, something has to happen if I'm going to go meet him. And from what's being reported by Fox News, Vladimir Putin apparently is talking about having some kind of peace deal because Trump upped the ante by putting nuclear submarines and nearby after the former president, Medvedev, made some disparagingly stupid comments about nukes, nuclear power, and nukes being deployed in Ukraine. So Trump is not going to wait around. He said, you got a former president of a country making a comment like that, and we're not going to sit by with our thumb up our ass, basically is what Trump was saying, being unprepared. So he launched 2 of our best nuclear submarines. And a lot of people are like, well, 2 nuclear submarines, right? Big deal, right? But Russia knows what I know, is that each one of these nuclear submarines can take out about 115 cities with nuclear armaments. These submarines are fully packed and loaded. So when you have Russia that has hypersonic missiles, and what used to take a half hour to get to the United States now will take 5 minutes, 10 minutes. You have to have what you have available, because we don't have the hypersonic technology as far as I know. I'm sure we're developing it. Maybe we have it already and it's top secret. I don't know. But I would hate to think that Russia has a nuclear advantage now and we don't. But it would not surprise me after having 8 years of Obama defunding the military and military spending, that we in fact do not have this stuff we need. But I do know that Obama did sign, and it was passed by Congress, refunding and revamping our nuclear arsenal, straying away from intercontinental ballistic missiles to more of the smaller, faster, strategic nuclear missiles and nuclear armaments. We have battlefield nuclear weapons now where we can choose how much destruction we do, from a mile radius to a 10-mile radius to a 30-mile radius, etc., so on. And you can fire them from an artillery cannon. You could park a warship off the coast of Lebanon and nuke Iran from there, I guess is what I'm saying, using a conventional cannon. So we took more of that approach. Russia took the hypersonic intercontinental missile approach. So they don't have much defense for nuclear submarines sitting off their coast, I guess is what I'm saying. So if they were ever foolish enough to launch a hypersonic missile into the United States or more, they would have to go all out, which would be the traditional old, which Putin is aware of, mutually assured destruction. MAD. Mutually assured destruction. So if they launched missiles at us, our missiles would get launched before they got here. They would have to do some kind of electromagnetic pulse attack just prior or during and hope that that worked. Trump has been a proponent of spending billions of dollars revamping the military's entire system to be electromagnetic pulse proof by shielding it from electromagnetic EMP pulses. So this is all very expensive, but defense of oneself has always been expensive. So this is all very serious stuff. And make no mistake, while Russia's military itself does not really pose a threat to us, as evidenced by being taken out by Ukraine drones, I don't think Putin understood how resilient technology is to modern weaponry, that you spent millions and millions of dollars building a tank and you take it out with a $500 drone with a bomb attached to it that can penetrate armor. So the way we knew warfare in the past is over. That much is obvious. And so thankfully we do have these new modern smaller tactical nuclear weapons, battlefield ready, which can be more effective. So Russia's regular army is kind of old at this point. Not the people, but the equipment. Russia is not a huge economy. A lot of people think it is, just because of the Cold War, and you figure, well, they're a superpower, and not really. Their superpower basically based around wheat, steel, iron, precious minerals. Russia's landmass is huge, humongous. Most of it's not lived in. It's kind of like Canada and Australia, if you think about it. That is what's unique about the United States, is everywhere in America pretty much is inhabited by somebody, and it's not like that in other countries outside of Europe. So a lot of countries are very rich in minerals, but they don't have people living there. And the population of Russia, I mean, the GDP, gross domestic product, of Russia is the same as Texas. California's GDP is bigger than Russia's, okay? Just to give you an idea of the scale. And they just don't have the resources. Germany, on the other hand, because people like to make the comparison, Putin's the same as Hitler. No. Germany had the most modern military in the world. They spent heavily on it. They went into debt. They borrowed, and they violated all the post-World War I treaties, and nobody did anything about it because nobody wanted another world war. So they sat around from 1918 until probably 36 before people started going, we might have an issue with Germany. And previously in the 1920s, Japan was invading Manchuria. They were invading parts of the South Pacific that were colonized by the Brits. So people knew something was going on. Nobody did anything about it. The war was so costly for Britain that they did everything they could to stay out of one, instead of doing what they should have done, which was preemptive preparation. They should have been preparing. Hitler gave all the warning signs, you know. So Hitler made a peace treaty with France. Everybody was like, oh great, we got a peace treaty with Hitler, we'll be okay. Which everybody knows Hitler violated that. He invaded Poland. And Russia was siding with Germany at the time. So, and that was probably the biggest blunder that Hitler made, because the Germans hated the Russians. They hated the Bolsheviks specifically. Communists. Hitler hated communists. And so Russia was in it with Germany at the beginning as part of a Germany, Russia, Japan, Italy axis of evil that definitely would have wiped out England had everybody stayed together. And you know, Germany, in hindsight, what they should have done was they should have invaded France, taken the rest of Europe, and just sat there and did nothing about England. Because the United States was not anxious to get into a war either. We had a president in power who was elected on no new wars. So people are trying to draw the parallels between Putin and Hitler. And the simple fact is, Russia does not have an advanced military, as we've seen in Ukraine. For every 100,000 Russians that are killed, it's like 20,000 Ukrainians, 30,000, 50,000. So Russia is just throwing men into the meat grinder, which is what Germany did in World War I. Basically, they were going to fight a stagnant stalemate until the last man standing. Whatever side had more people would win. So that is what Putin is doing right now. And so that's what's happening with that. This whole thing to try to get people that weren't supporting the Ukraine war in Europe and the United States was to go on this publicity propaganda tour. And we saw many Democrats echoing that on the media. Trump is going to do like, Putin's going to do like Hitler. He's going to invade Europe. Ukraine falls, and then the rest of Europe's going to fall. The only way that could ever happen would be if Russia partners with China, and China enters a major global conflict, World War III. China has nukes. Their navy is bigger than ours. Debatable about whether or not they're actually better than ours, though. I mean, you could have 1,000 wooden ships that can all be destroyed by a good destroyer. One ship. I guess that's my point. Don't know what kind of training they have. Don't know what kind of combat experience their officers have. So, a lot of the problems that China has with leadership is that people don't have the incentive to do things on their own. They have to clear it with somebody first. So in peacetime, everything runs great. But as soon as wartime happens and people have to take it upon themselves to make decisions, the Chinese are not very good at that. They weren't raised that way. Because people that think for themselves are dangerous to the government because it's a communist country. Russia had the same problem. They probably still do. That's probably why they're getting so much damage and death, but they're winning. So, you know, China has a large supply of human bodies that we saw them use in Korea. We had Korean Chinese soldiers with frostbitten feet because the temperature was like minus 30, minus 20, and you know, they got frostbite in their feet. And I saw photographs, and I saw a video. I saw a live video of this Chinese soldier sitting on a rock, and you know, one foot had his boot off, and all you could see was skeletal feet. All the flesh on his feet had decayed, fell off, and got frostbite, and he's just sitting there, you know, with a look on his face like, I can't do anything about this. And he's just sitting there. And obviously he had both his legs amputated, obviously, because there was nothing left. So, you know, you get a lot of things like that with the Chinese military, from what I read. While they have a lot of personnel, they have a lot of people that do what they're told. So, let's still get this stuff here. We got books here. Children's Encyclopedia. Book of Mormon. Book of Mormon, Doctrine and Covenants. Pearl of Great Price. This is not the Bible. Sorry if there's any Mormons out there. Like Mitt Romney. Mittens Romney. So anyway, with all these things going on, for Russia to ever do anything in Europe, they would need some alliances. They would have to partner with Iran, who also does not have a good military, and they just lost a good part of it due to Israel, and which should also shut people up when they start talking about the United States should not be assisting Israel. Well, Israel is one of our countries in the region that needs to survive, because without Israel there, that's all going to be a Middle East empire that wants to kill us. And I know people don't believe that. That's just my gut feeling. That just tells me from history and what's happened in the region, especially in 1960. You know, Egypt invaded Israel with a surprise invasion, pushed Israel to the sea, and they fought and took it back. And there's a lot of history there. You have to understand, this is a religious thing. It's Christianity against Islam, okay? And you have Muslims and Christians. They've been fighting over that land for thousands of years, literally. And you know, there's a lot of people that are not believers, and they can't process simple facts. Like they say, how do we know this, you know, happened? And you know, when you have to have faith to believe instead of fact, and there's plenty of facts. Dead Sea Scrolls, perfect example. You have 4 or 5 different sets of scrolls found at different time periods, written by 5 different people, and they all say the same thing. That doesn't happen by accident. That happens because of something that actually happened of such significance and importance that they had to write about it, because they didn't have Microsoft Word, and they wrote these scrolls that were protected by priests for centuries. And my point is, they all reference Jesus Christ, the coming of Christ, and that he would be persecuted, and it mentions all that centuries before Christ even was around. So we're going back to the Old Testament. So whether you want to say if it's factually written in details, no, because these stories were told by people and they didn't understand a lot of science, a lot of things. But they wrote about what they saw, heard, what people said, what they did. And that's all well documented by different people in different time periods. So you need to process that for a minute. Something written 4,000 years ago, all right, before Christ was even a thing, okay? Talking about the stuff that the Bible today mentions, and mentioned before the Dead Sea Scrolls were found. And there's no mistake, all of these have been dated, 4 or 5 different locations they were found, all containing the same information, but centuries apart. They were written, one person wrote one, lived his whole life and died. Somebody before him wrote the same thing this guy did. This was all passed on from generation to generation, eyewitness accounts, because you have the New and Old Testament, and it's a pretty remarkable coincidence if you ask me. So anyway, that's my commentary on that. It's all researchable. You can research all that yourself. That's what I've done. I'm not being lied to about it. So anyway, I don't know what else to talk about now. I've had this camera on me the whole way. Maybe I should turn it around. Maybe you're tired of seeing my face. So we have a lot of things going on in the world, I guess is what I'm getting at. And I get lost in these discussions while I'm walking because, like I've said a million times, you need to talk about things when you're doing something repetitive every day. Like when people go work out at the gym, they play music or watch something on their phone while they're on a treadmill. But because I'm outdoors, I don't listen to things because I want to hear traffic, like that truck that went by here. I want to hear what's going on. I want to hear if a rabid raccoon is getting ready to attack me or something, you know, or if I'm going to get mugged on a city street late at night. I just want to hear what's going on, like that dog that's barking. They're on their little porch. I'm safe. So we have all kinds of things that go on. Like when I'm out walking in the city, I don't wear a hoodie because it takes away from your peripheral vision. And you want to see cars when you're walking to cross a street at an intersection. You want to see if somebody came up who was driving too fast, or somebody with their headlights out making a turn right where you are and didn't see you. And all of those things have happened to me at one time or another walking. So I do not recommend wearing a hoodie, even if it's cold enough and windy and you really want to wear your hoodie. If you're out walking in the city, I would not recommend it. Now walking here, this would be okay. Just walking down a long stretch like this, you don't really need your peripheral vision unless you hear something that you have to turn your head and look at. So then you have to remember all the electric cars you have now. I don't know how many times I have not heard an electric car. It's really something to be worried about when you're walking. Regular cars make noise, thankfully. And so anyway, let's see where the battery is. 20% of the battery. Over head there. I'll change it out. You're wondering why I turn the camera when I look at the battery. It's I need a dark contrast to see the white battery percentage on the little tiny screen. So I've noticed a lot of the bodies of water in Maine are getting low. The ones that are not spring fed. Probably a good way to tell if a body of water is spring fed or not is if the water levels always stay the same no matter how much of a drought you have. And I think right now Maine is definitely dry, having a drought. And you can see like this lawn here has brown patches. That is something very rare. I mowed the property yesterday, and you get brown patches. That's usually indicative of not having enough rain. People in California know what I'm talking about. People in Florida, not so much. You guys get more rain, thunderstorms and the like. So I think this is a good talk today. I like to babble. So this weekend is going to be a lot of fun. I'm going to go pick my brother up at the airport. And we're going to have a good range day this weekend before he flies out again at the end of the weekend. So that should be fun. We got a lot of 223. We have 5.7. Shotguns. I'm going to be shooting 30-30. All kinds of stuff to shoot this weekend. We got tons of jugs of water. We got a delivery of some nice 223 pointed soft points today. We should do a great job on jugs. Was remanufactured 223 pointed soft points, 60 grain bullets. Grain are remanufactured. By Freedom Munitions, which is a pretty decent company. Remanufactured ammo, if done properly, is something very affordable to buy. And I have seen some crazy stuff in my lifetime, but I am seeing 50-round boxes of 9mm ammo for 7 cents a round. 7 cents. I've seen boxes of ammo selling for $9 and something cents. $8 something. I saw some remanufactured for $7. 50 rounds of 9mm for $7. Their shipping was stupid, so it's probably part of their scheme, but starting to see the color of the apples in the tree. Let's go get a close-up shot of the apple tree. Better not kiss anyone under the apple tree. With anyone but me. Song about that. Pretty nice view. It's my little pit stop I like to stop in. I just like to look at it. This fall we'll see turkeys out there and all kinds. So when you hear that expression, turkey in the straw, that is hay, which is straw, as we see right in front of us. This is all going to be mowed down and baled up. We'll come by here, there'll be giant bales out in the field, and we'll see turkey in the straw. Oh, I see a turkey in the straw. Probably too far away for you to see on here, but with the naked eye I can see them. Two of them. If I was a hunter, I would have two bagged right now. Double barrel, over or under. Right there, directly in front of me. Under 100 yards. I see their head bobbing. So there they are. Don't know if you can see them, but they're in camera. I noticed that when I was at the ocean, you know, I got these nice shots of the ocean out there in the horizon in person. You could see all the individual boats, a couple of fishing boats out there, and you could see details on them, like the color of the buoy. And on video, when I watched it back, I was like, well, I can't see that. As beautiful as that video shot is, it does not have the same detail as the human eye. And I have yet to see a video that does. Even those really ultra high quality 8K videos on YouTube, you just can't replicate what the human eye sees. Oh, look at that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 turkeys. Oh, they're going to head off into the woods. And look what we got here. They were over here. We got a turkey feather here, but I think somebody planted that in the ground. So I'll leave it there. I got turkey feathers at home. So those young gobblers are now big, which can tell you just one thing. Summer is going to be over sooner than it started. We're already in the beginning of August. And it's crazy. We got about 4 weeks left of August, 4 weeks in September, 4 weeks in October, and that means in about 13 weeks we're going to have an election for some local stuff. Voter ID is going to be on that ballot. So this is about the time I got to start telling people to support voter ID in Maine. It is on the ballot. It is worded stupidly and confusedly, intentionally to confuse the voter into voting against voter ID when you think you're voting for it. So I'm sure there's going to be a whole ad campaign put out to explain it for people. And I gotta cross the street because I got those bushes sticking out over the guardrail there, and if I walk along those, somebody coming up on that side of the road's not going to see me until the last second. And I don't want to take a chance of somebody almost hitting the guardrail, taking me out by accident. So we'll step off the road here where I can walk on this dry grass. And this is what I was talking about. You see this brown stretch right here? That is brown because the snow plows plow the snow like this. When they plow, it curls over this way or pushes this way, and it has road salts in it, which is calcium chloride, and it kills the grass. So this is where the snow lands in the wintertime when they plow. Most of the roads in Maine show evidence of that. I've showed you that plenty of times. Put a little squirrel there. Somebody put a little squirrel there. Now I can go across here. Got a mosquito checking me out. Hardly any water running through here. That is real low. I've come through here before where that was all flooded. There's no rain in sight either. Fresh battery. Just hit 4 miles. Got a breeze kicking up, drying my sweat off. That feels nice. And I'm telling you, weather could not be nicer. We are in one of the best stretches of weather that I've not seen in a long time. So I'm noticing a lot more acorns in the road. There are a couple of varieties of bushes that I've noticed. People's gardens are going to be ready to pick soon. A couple of varieties of bushes we've seen. Some of the leaves are starting to turn yellow. A lot of people I've seen online is, oh, fall's already starting. I'm like, no, you idiot. We haven't had any rain. You're watching the same thing that happens to your houseplants when you don't water them. The leaves turn yellow. That's all it is. It's the first friggin' week of August. There's no foliage turning right now. So we saw a whole friggin' gaggle of turkeys today. Oh, got an Italian flag there. See that too often. It's not the Mexico flag. Mexico flag's got a logo on it. Whew. Checking my miles, 4.25 miles. Alright, we'll wind up this walk up ahead. Really do enjoy walking this route. Very scenic, peaceful, relaxing, and I'm not out in the boonies close enough to get my miles in like I want without too much hassle. Living in this neighborhood is nice. It's a good place to walk. And yes, you know, a lot of people have said on these videos, boy, you're blessed to live in a beautiful area like that. And I don't take it for granted. I understand fully how beautiful Maine is. It sure is nice. And if you can get used to cold weather for a part of the year, at least a quarter of the year, you have to bundle up and really bundle up. But, you know, you get some nice snow views, you get some nice fall foliage views we've seen on these walks. It's really nice. I want to go back to that ocean spot in Harpswell this fall when the leaves are turned. I bet you it's gorgeous to walk through those woods with the leaves coming down like we did at other places. So, it's nice. I like it. This thing here, free sticks. They used to have a sign on there, free wood. A dove up there on the wire. Bird on a wire. Ooh, ooh. Ooh, ooh. That's what they sound like. Used to have African ringneck doves until the cats ate them. And they did too. Didn't find anything left. Just feathers and murder and mayhem. And they left a few body parts, but people need to remember cats are predators. All right. Well, my friends, we will turn the camera around, and I want to say thank you very much for walking with me, walking with J.Beau, and so my friends, thank you for walking with me. And peace, love, happiness. Say a prayer for Trump and the country. God bless America and you and your family. And we will see you on the next walk. And to remember to be a good patriot and just support the country. Hold people accountable that need to be, friend or foe. And we'll see you guys on the next walk. Bye-bye now.